Utopia and Aatrox are the bans for Misfits Gaming.
So right now the priority is on the Lucian. Remember, we are on 9.2, so the Rakan value is very much likely going to drop pretty substantially because the nerfs were quite hefty, to say the least.
They were devastating, Vedius. I'm no longer good at solo queue or at League of Legends. That's what's happened to me here. There's another bot lane ban, though, with the Lucian getting removed.
So, first pick priority, naturally going to be the Urgot. No surprise there. You can obviously flex it to both mid and top, should you want. I believe XL even played Urgot mid in week 1 of the LEC. Now, this does leave things like the Alistar open for Misfits. This is something that they often like to grab relatively early in the draft. Having a look at what else might be available. Sejuani is another big jungler that's very high on the priority list in the current meta, and I'm sure Maxtor would love to get his hands on it as well.
Both these junglers have played Karthus as well. It's on the cards for them if they want it, not banned out in that first rotation. Instead, it's going to be the Kennen.
Interesting.
Interesting to see the priority on that. Of course, Soaz has played it once, and yes, Misfits won with it, but so strange to see that as the first pick in a rotation.
I agree. Like, why not save it for the third rotation instead? You know, try and guarantee yourself 2 strong picks like the Alistar and Sejuani, and then save the Kennen for later. But I guess they really wanted to value it. And interestingly, even putting even more priority on getting their AD carry as well. So, kind of taking me back a bit. That's not the word I'm looking for. It surprised me, is what I'm looking for.
I think we're both slightly taken aback by it, Vedius.
That's what I'm trying to say. Good job.
Thank you. It's as if we're a synergistic duo. But there is the Alistar. That's being taken for Kasing. Alongside it, Yaskor is going to have the Sivir, so a scaling AD carry down towards that bottom side.
Okay, Sivir typically does pretty well in lane against the Kai'Sa. In teamfights later on, in like grouped up teamfights, Sivir is definitely stronger because of her larger area of effect damage. And I think early on at the beginning of Season 9 as well, she got buffed to her Q, which means that it just overall does more AoE damage. But Kai'Sa is a much stronger duelist, and her single target damage is much greater thanks to her passive. So in terms of the situation where they ever might find themselves in a 1v1, 2v2 or a skirmish style, Kai'Sa's definitely going to have the edge, and Hans Sommer loves those kind of mechanically intense AD carries as well.
And a worry always is when you have the Kai'Sa that you're going to get pushed back in the lane, you don't really have that lane presence, especially against a Sivir who has the ricochet, can push the lane, but we see Misfits mitigate some of that with the Morgana pick.
It's very, very true. So I'll be quite interested to see who's actually able to get the push in this lane. I'm kind of leaning more towards Hans Sommer and Gorilla because of how they like to play more on the aggressive side. The Black Shield makes it harder for the Alistar to find those successful engages. So I think right now, Misfits have strong pushing top. They have the ability to play push bot, depending on how aggressively they choose to play the matchup. So with already 2 strong lanes to play around, Misfits kind of getting what they want so far in the draft.
As we're getting to the second ban phase, we're starting to see some of those mid laners isolated from the pool. Lissandra, incredibly, just a ubiquitous mid laner at the moment. It's seen in every single draft, and the LeBlanc taken away by XL.
Do want to note how we've seen a much lower priority on things like the Aurelia. I thought that she would still be very valuable even after the changes, but it seems like right now on the LEC stage, they want to put less focus on getting that champion. But with these bans coming through, with things like LeBlanc and Lissandra often being considered quite good picks into her, maybe Misfits say, well, you know what, we can actually grab this. We have AP damage up top. You know, getting AD damage in the mid would actually benefit us quite a lot.
And of course, Kai'Sa can go towards that AP rounded out build as well. So getting a bit of AD in that mid lane would make a lot of sense. Like the Olaf ban here for Misfits, you know that you have quite a bit of CC on your side, so you get rid of someone who can mitigate that. Galio removed by XL, still strong. We talked about it a little bit in Ready Check. Although he has been nerfed, he does still have a very big impact, especially teamed up with something like the Kennen.
His burst and overall damage has definitely been lowered, which made a lot of people very happy. And then surprisingly, Misfits then going to put priority on getting the Sejuani in the jungle. Good engage, good scaling, fits very nicely with the team fight composition the Misfits have kind of got for themselves. He can group up with both top and bot to set up some pretty effective ganks, and they're saving their mid laner for the counter pick. So as we said, Febiven, he wanted to try and get that favorable matchup because that's where they struggled against Vitality last week, and they're going to be guaranteed it this time around.
Well, I have to see where XL decide to put that Urgot there. Is there still that flexibility? With the Gragas, you would assume that's going towards the jungle. Yep. And now we'll see Singh picking either a top laner or a mid laner here to round out XL's composition.
So what do they look to blind pick? We have seen Victor being picked as sometimes a pick into the Kennen. I don't know how much of a fan I really am of it, but it is one possibility.
Things like the Zoe for Exile as well. He's so comfortable on it.
Yeah, but I think it's such a dangerous blind pick, and there are so many counters to it that I wasn't really expecting it to be super high priority. Interestingly, going for the Yasuo is kind of a throwback to Exile's Yasuo one-trick days when he first joined the European League. He was known for his Yasuo and LeBlanc going off onto a side lane and dying a huge amount, but over the years he has definitely improved on the champion, and that is more than likely going to be sent to the mid lane.
Looks like we're going to have the Sion. Oh, last moment switch there from Gorilla towards the Aurelia. So although we saw, you talked about it, Vedius, you said they have a lot of AP damage on the rest of their team. Pick yourself up some AD.
This surprises me. I swear most pros have often told me that Yasuo is a really good matchup into the Aurelia because you outscale, you can actually out-trade her in the laning phase, and you can win wall her E and her ultimate. So like, there are a lot of
Feels pretty strong. Feels pretty good.
There are a lot of things that Yasuo can do to kind of come out ahead on this matchup, like you outscale on the side lane. Your team fighting is arguably stronger on the Aurelia, but I guess Featherman feels confident in the matchup. We'll see how things play out. My memory seems to suggest that Yasuo does win out on this one, but still, Misfits at the very least have two pushing lanes with the Cannon and top lane, and then because they have the Morgana paired up with the Kai'Sa, they have a lot more pressure in that 2v2. So I still think that in terms of the early game laning phase, Misfits are the ones that will be generating the lead, but that's okay for Excel because they do still have very strong scaling. Sivir, Yasuo, really good in the late game, especially in these 5v5 situations. And they have a lot of setup with both the Alistar and the Gragas. So even if XL fall a little bit behind in the laning phase, it's not the end of the world. What's more important is that the goal difference doesn't become astronomical before they can get to a point where they can leverage like the 3 items of a Yasuo and a Sivir.
Well, we saw last week Misfits falling to Vitality after switching up their bot-centric playstyle to a top-centric playstyle. Here, they had the counter-pick mid. Maybe that strategy won't pay out for them once again if we see the matchup go the way we expect it to. XL, on the other hand, last week had a very strong performance versus G2, but still didn't pick up a win on the week. I'm sure they'll be wanting to rectify it today, although they are against some pretty tough opposition.
They certainly are. Misfits, even after their loss, are still a very strong and scary team that you have to respect. This roster is stacked, and they'll be looking to bounce back coming into week 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be jumping onto the Rift. I'm curious as to what level 1 shenanigans may occur.
Yeah, you never know if something's going to happen, right? Because there's always this slew of options, right? Do you just line up, form this line of scrimmage that we talk about where all 5 members of your team are just set up across the river to spot out any invades? It seems to be what's going on. So it's, of course, running the Kleptomancy on the Kennen, something we've seen pay off for Kennens in the past. Didn't get a Potion of Rouge for himself this time, so won't have that early advantage, but Kadro should just be able to run away from him now.
Yeah, just a bit of poke coming out. Misfits will be able to move into the enemy jungle. Looks like they haven't dropped any vision down for the time being. But again, I want to reinforce what the things like Maxlaw will be looking to do in the early game. Now, the thing about Maxlaw is he, in every single one of his games, has ganked before the 5-minute mark. Literally every game. And I feel like if he's going to gank anywhere, it would be, I'm going to say bot lane.
Really? You think he'd go to the bot lane?
Now, no, the reason why I say that is not because he usually always goes bot lane, but it's because that's where they have the best setup. But I did realize after I said it, that's probably not that great of a prediction, because in 3 of his 4 games, he went bot lane at around level 3 or level 4. So, but you can see starting on the top side, Menik, it's a strong indication that he's going to head towards his bot side of the map. It also means that Gorilla and Handsome get to the lane earlier, so they'll get that earlier level 2. And everything is kind of going towards my fantastic prediction, Medic.
It was a stellar prediction, and we'll see if it's correct as the game progresses. Oh, he's gone towards the mid-side, Vedius.
Whoa,
this is not bot.
This isn't a gank. He's making his way bot. See?
Okay.
Keep your eyes on him. He's going to go for the Scuttle Crab. Look, the ping's coming out. Another prediction. I'm just on the ball today.
On the other side of the rift, we do have Kado Maxlaw matching up into Maxlaw. Now, Kado has been sort of one of the shining lights, the rays of hope for this XL team, because nothing seems to happen without him. 100% kill participation at the 15-minute mark, high kills and assists as well, 4th in the league, and tends to have a gold lead as well on his jungle.
He's a pretty aggro jungler, and in week 1, he was a little too trigger happy, but in week 2, he definitely showed a lot more control and restraint. He had 1 Nocturne game, and he had 1 Karthus game. The Karthus game he couldn't really get rolling, but in the Nocturne game, he was finding plays left, right, and center, constantly pick after pick. And on a Gragas, you can definitely make stuff happen in the early game, but that's what we need to see. It's not like they need to snowball the early, because we already talked about their composition really turns on, or like the 3 items, that's when they're really at their strongest. But he has options. He can gank bot lane. He can very easily, at level 6, set up a play around mid with the ulti, with the E into a Yasuo ulti. There's a lot of kill potential there with the 2 versus 2, so Cadril does have options. It's just about whether or not he looks to utilize any of those.
I think the big thing as well is, although he might not want to be initiating ganks, having counter gank potential is very important on the Gragas as well. We've seen it pay off already today. Jankos counter ganking self-made in our first game, leading to G2 getting a lead.
Now look at what Exile and Cadril are doing. They've grouped up, given that Exile had the push in mid, and he actually helped Cadril try and secure the Raptors. I'm not entirely sure if he secured them or not, but that's the kind of thing you want to be seeing from your mid lane. Utilize your pressure to set up invades, and it allows you to kind of steal away enemy resources that much more efficient.
And that's what a pushing lane can do for you as well. In Picks and Bans, we talked about how Misfits should have push in the top lane and possibly have push in the bot lane. We'll have to see with the level advantage they should have it for the moment. But when you push up the lane, it means your jungler can be that little bit more aggressive, can step forward a little bit further, and it allows you just to steal away these small advantages in the early game.
Yeah, I agree. So now we see Cadril making his way up towards the top side. Soaz should have spotted him.
Engage, there's the disdain. Cadril with a follow-up engage, and Soaz not going to flash away, doesn't want to burn it. First blood, Excel, and it's the UK underdogs who strike first.
Fantastic gank from Cadril. You know, Max Thor, we thought he would be the first one to gank. We thought he would go towards the bot side. He still has until the 5-minute mark to make sure the prediction is right.
30 more seconds.
I wasn't expecting Cadril to go top that early. You know, Soaz had a massive wave built up behind him. If anywhere, that he was just going to push that in, go back to base, but he wanted to get a last bit of chip damage in, and he doesn't end up putting it off. So now we see Max hanging around mid. Oh no, not
going
mid.
Towards mid, Exo needs to try and dodge away, uses the wind wall, but Maxwell has the flash. Exile flashes under the tower. They will get the stun lock, but Exile escapes for the time being.
So Max Thor, he did gank before 5 minutes.
Well, so 50% right. 50% of your
right.
prediction. It's a bit like when you try and predict the results of games as well. StatSpot is doing too well for us at the moment.
Ooh, here we go. Featherman, Remnant flash on Exile.
Getting a huge amount of damage down. Cadril there just in time though. Exile, the ignite not enough, but Featherman flashes forward for the kill and survives with the triumph. Gorilla there with the shield, and that's what Misfits want from their mid lane.
Damn. So Featherman at level 5 goes very aggressively onto Exile, knowing that he has the ignite, comes very close to getting a solo kill, and if it wasn't for Kasing and Cadril showing up, then that would have been a clean 1v1 in favor of Featherman. You think that's it, Featherman's gonna die, Exile's gonna get some health back from the level up or just from the kill itself, but then the flash in from Gorilla to provide that clutch save. Beautiful stuff coming out from Misfits, and they answer back on the kill board.
And we wondered in Picks and Bans whether Forbidden with this counter pick or with this saved pick would be able to fight up against Exile. Well, he showed us exactly how he can do it with this.
So he lands the stun, which means that he can proc the Q twice. He just shreds through the shield, even though the passive has been removed on this patch. And then you can see he gets a little bit of health back from his roots. I forget the name. It's
Triumph.
Triumph, yeah. I thought it was Triumph Roar or something, but yeah, Triumph is the name. And this is great for him, because we talked about how the mid lane should be, in theory, a losing matchup for Featherman. So what Maxtor did was he ganked early to make the matchup easier for him, and now he's actually sitting on 2 Doran's blades and working towards what looks to be a phage as well. So now Misfits have 3 pushing lanes. Bot lane is doing fantastically. Top lane is a little even, obviously because of the death, it puts him a little bit behind, but mid is now winning as well. So Misfits should, during the laning phase, have control all across the board.
Yeah, such large leads in that mid lane and bot lane as well. About 20 CS in mid and the kill, of course, and a 15 CS advantage for the Kai'Sa over the Sivir. We thought maybe the Sivir would have the push priority, but obviously this Morgana helping out that Kai'Sa so much.
Yeah. Like what it is providing, and there is a 400 gold gap between both Featherman and Hansam. You can see it is in their favor, rather, is what I was trying to say. And yeah, Misfits, their main carries are looking good right now.
And with the gold being even, you might wonder, well, where's the 400 gold gap being made up? It's in the support role. It's about 400 gold on Kasing over Gorilla, which isn't really going to impact the game in the same way that a gold lead on your AD carry or mid laner will.
I agree. I agree. So now we just kind of enter a slightly slower pace of game. Maxwell has done his gank, and he's like, my job is done.
Yep.
I can now just chill out in my jungle. He's going to work towards his first jungle item. already completed a Cinder Hulk, rather. Cadril as well, working towards his Runic Echoes. And Misfits, they just want to keep the pressure up. They want to keep the snowball going. They want to try and utilize the pressure that they have in their lanes a little bit more. Maxwell now level 6. XL has no flash. He gets stunned.
FBIV will go with the chase for a moment. They have seen Cadril coming in from the side here, and Gorilla up as well. So I think we actually might have been looking at XL's vision there when I saw Cadril. No vision from Misfits up towards that top side, but Cadril just going to come for the gank up here. So still has the flash. Expect no flash on him. Cadril just trying to force away the cannon. Knocks him away, and he will flash to safety.
Will cost him a summoner spell, but XL putting a lot of resources in towards the top side of the map. Does mean that both Jessica and XL will continue to struggle. Just slowing down. Drake, not alive, was secured the first one by Misfits, so we actually missed that one. Oh, it was just after the gank in mid.
Yep, they used the pushing in mid and the pushing in bot to be able to take away the Infernal Dragon, which of course, so good when you have things like a Kai'Sa and an Aurelia and a Kennen on your team, getting all that extra AD and AP.
So, game's slowing down now. How's solo queue going? Good?
Yeah, so it's okay. I'm 4-4 at the moment in my placements.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's not bad.
Plat 2, getting about 70 LP a
wow,
win.
Plat 2, that's actually very good.
What about you? How'd you do?
Not good, mate.
Yeah, I know, that's why I asked.
I went 2 and 8 in placements. Plat 3 right now. It's tough.
Is it still Nocturne mid all the way? Or?
I mean, you gotta commit, you know? You can't give up when your chips are down. You gotta keep fighting.
I think the problem is I commit to winning, and you commit to Nocturne mid.
Well, I mean, it's just going through a bit of a rough patch, you know? It happens at the beginning of every season, my friend. You know, we all have solo queue drought, I would say.
We do.
And I'm waiting. I also tried Nico. I thought maybe that's the champion that I can use to bounce back. My new one trick. Terrible champion. I hated her. I really didn't like her at all. I couldn't make her whatsoever. I don't know how the LPL pull it off. But yeah,
Can we see it bot lane in the LPL?
Yeah, they love it bot lane. They think it's really strong. So, I don't know. But yeah, Nico, not a fun champion for mid lane for me.
I guess they just like huge amounts of team fights all the time. So if you have another champion...
That's true.
Because you can just chuck your clone
She also like pokes a lot, right?
That's
her poke is
That's
really good, but her wave clear is really unreliable. Now, okay, back in game, because we see 2 junglers heading towards top side.
Yeah, Cadril is here first. Has another ultimate available, flashes in, so is trying to get away with the slicing. Maelstrom just stuns them both up, but with the ignite, that will be enough. Expect picks up the kill,
good gank.
And it's a second good gank for Exile in the top lane.
Yeah, they already got the flash from Soaz earlier on. Now, Maxwell was hanging around, but unfortunately Soaz was so far up in the lane that it was so much easier for Expect to get the setup, and he landed that E perfectly just at the max range to allow Cadril to come in. He doesn't even use his ultimate, and now Exile have priority over the Rift Herald.
And it's one of the curses of pushing lanes. We talked about it in picks and bans. Soaz has the pushing lane in the top lane, but when you keep pushing up, eventually the enemy jungler is going to want to come across and gank you. You can see Maxwell trying to force Cadril and Expect off the Rift Herald here. We'll do it for the moment. Cadril comes back. Looking for that smite fight. Knock away. The smite comes out. It's secured by, I believe that was Maxwell.
I think it was.
Oh no, it's Cadril. Cadril gets it. He picks up the Rift Herald there. Maxwell still on the chase, looking for the stun here. Cadril doesn't have flash, but has the body slam, so he's coming across as well. But Expect will just body block for his jungler, and that will be a very well played little bit of macro play there from XL.
And it costs no summoner spells for XL, obviously except for the smite. They managed to get the flash out from Maxlaw, so as TP'd back into lane, he couldn't find any kills because Cadril was able to get out of that situation, and the Rift Herald was secure for XL. So XL looking great right now towards the top side of the map. Bot lane is starting to kind of snowball out of control, which is one of the big avenues that Misfits still have, but you can see here, really good E from Expect. Isn't forced to use the flash. Cadril flashes in to just make sure that he lands that crowd control. And they very quickly find a kill. Again, Gragas in this early game has a lot of damage, especially with the Runic Echoes, so they're trying to maximize that, utilize that. But while things are going well for XL towards the top side, Misfits mid and bot lane still heavily going in their favor.
Yeah, about 15 CS lead in that mid lane, 15 to 20, and about the same down towards the bottom lane as well, which is why the gold is so even. Now Expect just trading onto Soaz once again. It's a lot of damage that's coming down. The slicing maelstrom will not lock Expect underneath the tower. And you can see, once again, Cadril, he knows where his bread is buttered. He knows the top lane is the place to be. Pops the Rift Herald, gets blocked behind it for a second. And now we'll just try and force Soaz back once again. This is a lot of turret placings they're going to pick up.
But Maxlaw trying to do exactly the same on the bot side of the map. Jessica and Kasing are aware that they do not have the support from the rest of their team. Expect doesn't even have teleport available, so they're going to be forced to concede this. But at the rate at which XL is going, they should be able to secure first tower of the game.
Yeah, the Rift Herald just giving you such a bonus bonus in taking down these towers. Even through 4 bulwark stacks for those increased armor and magic resist on the tower, they'll still be able to take it. They do sacrifice the Ocean Dragon for it, though. You know, Misfits will say, okay, we know your jungler's top side, we will try and play down towards this bottom side, and XL actually rotate away and they say, okay, we can play towards mid now with our AD carry and support, or even look for the steal. Maxlor smites it away and will secure it.
No, that will be the final tower play down, but the issue that I'm now seeing for XL is that all this gold has gone on to Hans Summer. He is now sitting at 1.2k over his AD carry counterpart, which is a big deal for not only one of the primary carries for Misfits, but also for just Kai'Sa as a champion in general.
If you can get towards that Ginsu's quicker, if you can get towards Storm Razor quicker as well, you just have so much power. But there is also a 1,600 gold lead in the top lane.
Yes.
So how much impact can Expect have for this XL team as they look towards these 2-3 item team fights that their composition's built around?
So one of the things about having Expect ahead now means that coming into the team fights when you have like XL and Jessica at 3 items, he'll be a lot more valuable than the Kennen should be. Because of the deficit that Soaz has been put into, you expect him to be like an item or an item and a half behind in those mid-game fights. But again, the problem is that's compensated by the fact that Febiven is so strong and Hans Summer is so strong. The Trinity Force is already done before we even hit the 14-minute mark. So XL are really relying on this scaling avenue that they have available to them, which is very much team fighting from the Sivir and the potential split pushing coming out from the Yasuo.
You mentioned Febiven, and I think we have to bring some attention to him and give him some praise, because in Big and Ban we thought maybe the Yasuo would be a good matchup into this Aurelia. Last week he really struggled against Vitality, was put miles behind by Jizuke, but today he's leading in CS, he has that early kill as well, and he's looking much more like the Febiven of old.
Yeah, he certainly is. Jizuke versus Galio last week, not a fun matchup, but Jizuke really made his... sorry, did I say Jizuke versus Galio?
You did? I was going to leave it.
Blanc versus Galio is not a fun matchup. Especially when it's in the hands of Jizuke, and he definitely made Febiven suffer. So definitely having a much favorable time now. I love the early gank from Maxlor. Haven't really seen much jungling, jungle pressure from him outside of that, but to be honest, he hasn't needed to. He recognizes that Soaz has been struggling topside. He's just abandoned him. He said, sucks for you. My mid lane and bot lane are winning, so I don't really care.
Don't gank losing lanes. That's another thing I've learned from solo queue recently.
Mentality. Don't try and save the losers, you know? You just got to play around the winners.
Well, 15 minutes in, we do have about a 600, 700 goal difference between the two teams. It's XL who are ahead, and we wondered whether they could stop Misfits from absolutely snowballing away with these winning games. Kadril in there, Hans Summer with the flash away. The last best from XL did lock him up for the moment, and that's a summoner burnt on the Kai'Sa. Force back, and XL don't really get too much out of it, but used 2 ultimates for a summoner spell, 2 summoner spells.
What they've successfully done is forced one of the wave clear units of Misfits back. They now group up in mid lane and could look to siege, but of course, Hansom with the teleport will be able to rejoin. And while that is a big summoner spell that's unavailable, it means that in these team fights, just having that heal will be very valuable. And Misfits are just kind of forced to play a little bit, I say, more defensively. They have so much vision control around the bot side of the map that Febiven's even pushing up to the tier 2. So, yeah, I agree. Misfits lost nothing.
You just agree with yourself as well?
No, I agreed with you in the sense because you originally started like XL aren't going to get much off the back of it.
That's true.
So that was the point that I was trying to agree with.
I think just agreeing with me as a default standard is a good way for you to work.
Dangerous.
That's very true. Here we see Hans Summer jumping against Jessica and Maxlor here as well. The heal from Jessica will keep him alive for the time being, and Kasing trying to react, but already that tower's quite low. Kadril has the flank position, walks straight over a ward, and Misfits will realize that the Gragas is waiting in the wings. Just forces them back. Tower very low. They got some pressure down towards the bottom side as well. And across the board, I think this is strong maneuvers for Misfits. They're not really giving up too much. They're getting little advantages where they can. They've even managed to get Soaz back in the game, even on farm with Expect now.
Yeah, I mean, Soaz is fine in this current state. I'm going to have a quick look at his gold. He is still 1,200 behind Expect, so pretty much an item, more or less. But the Trinity Force being done for Febiven and Hansam are very close to completing the Rage Blade. These 2-item spikes for Misfits, very, very deadly, very strong, especially against this more scaling composition from XL that much more relies on like the 3 items. But you also saw there the difference between a Sivir and a Kai'Sa in skirmishes and duels, so mobility means that the Sivir can't really trade against the Kai'Sa, and that's why Hansan was more than happy to set up that dive, along with Maxlor being in his half of the jungle. And right now, I think the biggest difference we're seeing between the two teams is their utilization of vision. You'll notice that Misfits have set up full vision control around the bot side of the map, and that's because they're looking to play around Ocean Drake, looking to play around the mid tower, whereas XL, the only place they can get vision is on the top side of the map. With that Baron being available, it doesn't matter much.
Last blood comes out, Gorilla goes golden, Hansama underneath the tower, great knockback, perfectly timed there from Cage. Gorilla will pay for his misstep with his life, and now XL are going to force down mid. Side lane's not pushed to the right position for Misfits, for Riven, of course, no teleport, so he can't join this fight, and XL will claim this mid lane tower as their prize.
So that caught me completely off guard. Was focusing on how the fact that XL didn't really have many avenues to play around, and then they actually got control over a very small amount of the bot side river, and so immediately punished Gorilla for overstepping. He didn't have his flash available, the setup was great, and XL find themselves a kill and an Ocean Drake.
Yeah, someone is still burnt from the last time they made a play around that mid lane tower. Ocean Drake for XL will be their first dragon of the game. Of course, Ocean Drake's at 18 minutes in the game, not the most impactful, but still, if you want to just lane for a little bit longer, if you want to get towards those 3 items, I'm sure XL will be happy.
Yeah, because you got to look at the context of the game, where XL want to slow this down as much as possible. They want to get to the later stages of play, whereas Misfits, they're the ones that want to try and pressure. They are really strong at this point in the game, and they were the ones with a gold lead for pretty much the first 18 minutes of play. But now, after losing that death, after losing the Drake, they have been forced to slow down, and now they're kind of regaining control over the map very steadily and slowly.
Do have them coming towards those 2-item power points, though. You can see Hansama on his way towards the Ginsu's Rage Blade alongside that Storm Razor. You've got the Trinity Force finished on Forbidden, so if they can get Forbidden in a strong position with vision control in a side lane, I don't really think there's anyone from XL who can answer him easily. Maybe Expect on the Urgot could deal with the Aurelia.
Oh, probably at this point in time, yeah. Like, Expect is really strong, but we're getting to a point where Yasuo can even 1v1 him.
Okay.
Now, that... he has what looks like a Hex Drinker kind of components, which surprises me. Because, if anything, if you're going to send XL off to a side lane, you ideally want him against Febiven, because he doesn't have the teleport. So the fact that he's building magic resistance says that he's itemizing towards playing against Soaz in a side lane. So I find that quite interesting in terms of their decision-making. I guess they feel that Expect should do better into Febiven now that the shield changes happen to Aurelia, so she should be less effective at taking down that champion.
Shield changes obviously 9.2. Aurelia used to do bonus damage to shields, no longer does it.
So she would just melt through them before, but now she doesn't. Which is a bit of a shame.
It is a bit of a shame. They also took the disarm off her ultimate, which takes away some of her utility in teamfights, because Jessica no longer needs to be as worried of a huge amount of CC, or a huge amount of time where he can't do anything. Slow is actually bigger than it used to be. 90% slow now.
Yes.
As opposed to a 70% slow before.
There is an element of CC there, but you're right. I agree that disarmament being taken. I thought it made the champion quite unique. But those are now gone. So we'll see how well Febiven can utilize her team fighting later on. I do feel like Misfits will gear more towards a bit of a 1-3-1 comp, even if their team fighting is still very strong. What direction will they go for now?
Well, they're setting up towards this Baron, but as we come over to the 20-minute mark, I think because the game has been quite slow, and because XL have played to their playstyle and Misfits haven't been able to eke that much out of it, I think we haven't really brought attention to the fact that XL are 2,000 gold up at the 20-minute mark. They're in a very strong spot, and this is the team that pushed G2 to their limit last week, or the closest we've seen G2 go to their limit. And at this point, although I know Misfits are a strong team, and their loss to Vitality was probably just an aberration, I do have to wonder how much of a chance XL actually have of taking down Misfits.
Very true. If they can keep the game going slow like this, then their chances of winning go up and up. They just have to be very careful at this point in the game. Misfits comp is very strong, and if a 4-5v5 breaks out, you kind of have to give the edge over to Misfits' composition. But you're right, the way in which XL are playing right now, slow, steady, calm, not trying to force too many plays. They've taken all the outer towers. Like, they've been able to contest some of the Drake's Ocean is spawning soon, and if they can secure that one, they're going to be even. And so they can just continue to take their time. They can just be patient. And we know that their team fighting is good. We saw it against G2. The flanks that Expect found multiple times were great. Cadrill's setups were fantastic as well. And so far, he has once again been involved in 100% of XL's kills. So you are right. The chance exists. They just have to be careful. They have to play towards their win conditions right now.
That seems to be what they're doing. You're looking at 2.5 items on Jeskla, 1.5, 1.75 on Exile as well. Just waiting for them to hit those real power points. And Misfits, at some point have to take the bull by the horns. At some point have to say, okay, we know if you scale up, you have a very strong team fighting composition. And it looks like what they're trying to do is get some deep vision in around this Baron, clear out the vision from XL, and then force XL to respond.
You're a great analyst, Medic. You just... I feel like me lending you my playbook could put me out of the job.
Yeah, that's obviously the major issue. You can see Max looking for the engage, doesn't quite land. Soaz not going to go in with a full slicing maelstrom.
So that just zones XL away from clearing the vision, so Misfits maintain control over the area. They weren't really looking for a fight right there, and I feel like because Maxwell's ultimate is on a relatively short cooldown, it'll be up and ready relatively soon, but it also means that XL can now move into the enemy jungle and take away some of these control wards. So a bit of an exchange back and forth, but it looks like Misfits wanted to reset anyway as they all go back to base, and they'll just invest a bit more money into those wards.
So, Betty, a lot of the time when we talk about Baron setups, we talk about deep vision. And I don't really see XL going for that super deep vision here. Like, they're kind of making forays into the jungle, but I'm not seeing, you know, the red buff ward or the ward in this little pixel bush by the lane. Why aren't XL really pushing that far forward?
So, the thing is right now, Misfits are in a better position to fight than XL are. So, if XL set up deep vision, what it means is that Misfits will easily walk into the river, they'll gain control over the river, and then XL have vision of nothing. Because Misfits are just, they're not playing around the enemy side of the jungle. They pass the deep vision, so it's not helpful to them. So what XL will often do is they'll set up vision around, like, you can see it just around the entrances as well, and they just kind of want to maintain a rough idea of what Misfits is up to, so that they can just interrupt and get in the way, but they don't care about setting up deep. What Misfits want to do is get the deep vision. They're the ones that actually want to set these wards out towards the blue buff of XL, which right now they have been unable to do. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, it looks like Expect and Soaz drowned that Baron. So while initially the play looked good, looked proactive, I think it was just very risky, and XL were too afraid to commit, and immediately they end up coming out behind in that play.
It feels very much like the early game advantages we saw taken by both teams. You know, the top lane advantage for XL and the bot and mid lane advantage for Misfits have now kind of just fizzled out. Like, we're not seeing that huge lead for Misfits in the bottom lane. Yes, you're about half an item ahead. In the mid lane, again, it's half, maybe a quarter of an item. But as we get towards 3 item spikes, really it's much more just about how these team compositions are going to work against each other and who initiates the team fight in their favor.
Certainly will be. I'm really looking forward to these fights because, as you said, it's been a... I don't know if it's been a slow game, but it has definitely been a low-action game.
I think it has been a measured game. Because I think there's always been something happening, but it's not been the action-packed games we expect from Misfits, right? Yes. Misfits are always... They're bloody games, right? We see high combined kills a minute, we see action all over the map, but whenever we see Misfits not play around bots, they tend to just be a bit more measured, a bit slower in their playstyle.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I agree.
As a note, a key from Kissing's keyboard fell off.
Oh.
So that's why we are waiting. He's reset it, I assume, ready to keep going. That would be the hope. I wonder if it was one of the keys he uses, or whether it was like just, you know, oh no, my Z key's fallen off. Although I use Z for chat.
I use Z.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I should have picked a key that I don't use, really.
What's the button next to 1 called?
I have no idea.
What is that?
It's like a little squiggly boy.
I don't know if that's the official term.
That's what we're calling it from now on. Oh, I'm so sorry, ref. My squiggly fell off. Back on into the action. The squiggly has been replaced, everyone, and we are on to Summoner's Rift once again. 25 minutes in, 4 kills between these two teams, but still 2,000 gold lead for XL. I said it at 20 minutes. I'm now saying it 6 minutes later.
Their probability of success increases every minute that passes. XL continuing to just buy time. Now again, the gold difference is still big between the two AD carries, but the main item differential actually comes from the fact that Jessica hasn't completed his boots yet. That's it. Like, that attack speed is the difference, and once Jessica goes back, I think he'll buy an Infinity Edge. That's what I'm expecting. Now, Expect has gone on to Soaz.
Yeah, Soaz pops the Slicing Maelstrom again, and that's all Expect needs to do. Walk up to him, get him to use that huge teamfight impacting ultimate, and then walk away.
Oh, there's the Infinity Edge, and I think Expect's TP is... So there we go. So I was wrong earlier. He never used his TP to join the Baron fight. He actually just walked up, and he already had a different summoner spell due to his unsealed spellbook. So my mistake, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize about that.
That's all right. You're forgiven.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. But as you mentioned, ultimate now available for Soaz. XL can walk into the Baron pit, zone the rest of Misfits away, and now, I've been saying it all game, Medic, 3 items is the point for XL where they're like, ooh, we feel saucy, we feel ready to dance. Let's get onto the floor, and the Baron is their stage. So let's see if Misfits can tango the dance of XL.
This is the PowerPoint for XL. They're starting up the Baron. Misfits have all 5 members here, but so has no ultimate, no slicing mouse from XL still on the Baron. Misfits pushing down, so as forced back by Kasing, down to about half HP. A great explosive cast separates the fight, and XL now on the front foot pushing forward towards Misfits. Vivian gets locked up, and a great stun from him will keep Cajun and Jessica in their place. XL get the kill they wanted. They do not get the Baron, but they have a man advantage.
Now, what did they burn to get that kill? That was ulti from 4 members, which means that if they try to fight again, it'll be a lot harder. Misfits know this. They disengage. They still have a lot of their tools available. Maxwell saying, you have to come to us. We're starting the Baron again.
Forbidden has his ult. Hansama his as well. Gorilla has his in reserve. No Glacial Prison, though, for Maxwell. No ability to just pinpoint one person. Kasing jumps in. He gets onto Hansama, looking for that stun lock. Hansama uses the supercharge to go invisible for the moment. Kasing forced back. Maxwell looking for the flank. Can't quite find it. But Vivian jumps in the Vanguard's edge. Doesn't disarm, but they catch onto Cajun. He flashes away. Good stun with the flawless duet. Kasing with another engage. Maxwell goes golden. He's in the middle of XL. Gorilla pushing forward. The teleport coming in for someone. He has a flash. He has some slicing mouse from Gorilla's dead. Jessica survives. Gets himself out alive. And XL once again come out on top in the team fight.
Oh, wow. XL end up getting 2 kills overall, with Soaz dying initially and Gorilla just dying then without losing a single member. The gold lead goes in favor of them once again, but Misfits make their way back towards the Baron.
Forced straight back towards the Baron. They know Cajun had to back. Misfits can just start this up straight away, and it's up to Exile and Expect to do something about it, as otherwise Exile might be dead. 8,000 on the Baron. Misfits, such a good call after losing the team fight. Here comes Exile. Expect there as well with the smite. Gets it, he kills it! Oh my god! Expect, he gets the kill off the back of it as well! They get 2! Holy hell, Exile, that was good!
And now XL continue the chase. Soaz trying to run for his life. He has no flash. He does have the E, but this should be enough to get them away. But XL takes so much more. The Baron goes in their pockets. All 5 members are alive. Welcome to the late game, Misfits. This belongs to XL.
The underdog's bark is way worse than their bite. They managed to get the kill. They steal it away with the unsealed spellbook smite. And now they push in against Misfits. No one would have expected it, but XL have come to play.
Here they are. They're now sieging up towards this top inhibitor, but Hansama is angry.
Soaz still has his ultimate. Expect's going to force him back. Jessica on that inhibitor tower, mid down. Still at the top lane, just pushing back. Kasing dodges away. Means that Hansama can't go for that full-on engage. No inhibitor down yet. And XL, measured, calm, patient once again, back away with a 7,000 gold lead.
And this has been such a fantastic demonstration from XL, but ultimately they should have lost this Baron if it were not for Expect in this Alienware replay. Flashes in, gets the smite steal, and even more so, he then executes the jungler with a fadeaway. Beautiful stuff from Expect. But like that was all the Expect show right there. They invested in him in the early game. It was a slow, tempered game in the mid portion, but then he comes in, he changes to smite, he outsmites a jungler, and now with the Baron buff, XL are primed and ready to siege onto the base of Misfits.
After losing to Vitality last week, Misfits would have wanted to come back swinging. I have no doubt they are one of the top teams here in Europe, but XL have shown that they are in the LEC to take down these big names.
We said at the beginning of the day in Ready Check, one of your teams to watch has to be XL. They forced G2 back so far. They almost won that game. If only a couple of things had changed, they could have done it. And now in this time, they picked the scaling comp. They've gotten to late game. And now they're putting the pressure onto Misfits. You can see Soaz in the bot side trying to trade, but he has to go back to base. His ultimate is available. Can Misfits find a fight to keep them alive?
Here he comes, back to base. Slicing Maelstrom up, no flash for him. Max still standing on the front line. Kasing uses the Hex Flash across the wall. Explosive cast knocks them back. That's the inhibitor's tower down. Now looking for the inhibitor as well. Jessica pops the ult. Keeps XL in the right spot for the time being. Now pushing towards mid. They rotate. Double cannon wave. Pushing in means Misfits have to respond at some point. Hansama gets some damage down, but XL take the second inhibitor and back out. There's a Mountain Dragon there for them if they want it. Soaz looking for the opportunity to strike. Has that slicing Maelstrom still. And Misfits are not giving up on this game.
You can see how hard it is for Misfits to force a fight in this situation. Clumped up as a 5-man unit, XL and Jessica are just so strong on their respective champions that Misfits are afraid to engage. Hansama and Feb are not level 16 just yet. Soaz too afraid to jump in, especially with the Gragas that could knock him away if he doesn't time that Zhonya's properly. And now at the very least, Misfits will be able to get a Dragon back, but XL have looked so good.
Small solace for Misfits here, the Mountain Dragon, their third of the game, 32 minutes in. Next up will be an Elder if we get to that point, but you're looking at Infinity Edge on Exile. He's finished that 3-item build. You're looking at Infinity Edge on Jessica alongside an extra BF sword. That discrepancy between the AD carries is well and truly null and void, and look at that spike. XL just able to snowball this game away at the 30 minimum.
And the reality was that for Misfits, they needed to be more proactive when they were stronger. Their bot lane carry and their mid lane carry were in a prime position to do that, but they just failed to force against XL. XL were able to stall out, and now we're at this point. They got a Baron steal, they've secured 2 inhibitors, and now they're sieging onto the final inhibitor tower.
Down to half HP. Super Minions pushing in the side lanes. The wave's not in the best of spots for XL yet. They can wait it out. Baron buff has expired. 2 minutes left before the next Baron spawns.
They might even be able to... Okay, dive is a little risky because of how strong Hansama still is.
And so it still has that ultimate with
they shouldn't die then. They should just wait for the Super Minions to push in both bot and mid. You can see double supers in the bot lane as well. XL, they don't need to force anything. Take their time. They've got more than enough wave clear. They will slowly chip that tower down. They just need to be patient. They're so close to getting another upset. I say their first upset rather, but here we go.
Expect pops the cleanse. Vivim knocked back. XL there with the last bet. Hansama doing a lot of damage here, though. He's still alive in the back of this fight. Expect's going to go down into the GA. Kasane keeping Soaz away from the fight. Great stuff, zoning out that cannon. You can see XL trying to get the damage down. Soaz goes golden right in the right moment. Hansama jumps in! That's 2 for Hansama! Soaz goes down as well, but Jessica almost took down Maxwell upside as well. Cage on Expect and Jessica can still push in here because Misfits are so low.
That was actually a fight in favor of Misfits, but their base is falling apart. They have to go back and defend, which allows the 3 members of XL to secure themselves another inhibitor. Misfits on full base defense mode.
They're looking for the Nexus tower. Jessica is the one on the front line, but you have to think you back away.
Gonna die.
So low, doesn't die. Expect jumps onto Forbidden. Forbidden not able to survive for that long. He goes golden. Maxwell forced away as well. It's Jessica. It's all on him. He gets 1. Maxwell forced away, pulled back into the meat grinder, and Misfits have been ground up by XL this game. Hansama jumps in. Jessica goes golden. Hansama's down, and you have to think Misfits are down as well. Jessica survives, and XL cement their place in the LEC.
Huge win for XL as they shut down Misfits. The underdogs that you have to respect. This team fought tooth and nail against G2 Esports. They bought time against Misfits. And in the late game, they came out on top. They played around the Baron well. Admittedly, you have to take into consideration if Expect didn't get that smite steal, does this game look the same way?
No.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It happened. Expect got the steal. He was able to secure it. And then off the back of that, they just worked their way into the base of Misfits. They systematically dismantled them. And while Misfits still looked scary in that late game fight, it just was not enough to shut down this XL squad.
2 weeks in a row. XL have shown us that they are not to be trifled with.
But this time they get
coming out with a win.
Yeah.
Yes, 2 and 3 now across the course of their games. Until today, they had only beaten Rogue. And now they really look like playoff contenders. Misfits, on the other hand, it's another loss, but it wasn't so bad that I think you count them out from that podium spot. They are still the team we saw go 3-0.
So again, though, like, to not talk on Misfits too much, because this is a huge win for XL, but to me what we're seeing again is if Misfits fail to play through their bot lane, then they don't turn this into wins. That is so far the only way they've won games in the LEC. Their 3 wins came from snowballing bot, their bot lane runs away with the game, and then they look extremely dominant. In the game they played around top, they lost. In the game they ganked mid once, they didn't really do much else, they've lost. And so you have to bring into question, can Misfits do much else outside of playing around their bot lane? But regardless, what we did see from XL was much calmer play, very patient. They knew exactly how to play out on the team fights. The final team fight was definitely a little scrappy, but again, it didn't really matter because they knew that there was pressure elsewhere. Yeah. So in their head, they were like, we can afford to be a little risky here. We don't have to wait for the next Baron because even if a fight happens, we know that Misfits are going to lose something.
Even if they lose the fight, they know that Misfits are going to lose enough, right? Because you've already taken down that inhibitor in the top lane. Yes, it was a little bit messy, but XL, they wanted the win any way they could get that win, and they definitely deserved it today.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Again, Cajal cementing himself as the guy that makes stuff happen. He ganks a lot up in the top lane. I think he may have even been close to 100% kill participation again this time around. But you have to give a shout out to the support Kasing. In those Baron fights, he was phenomenal on this Alistar. Really good play from him, and I'm sure he's going to be extremely happy after that crushing defeat against G2.
Well, I'm sure he's going to be extremely sad because I've got an important question for you as well. Key player of the game is Expect Jeskla and XL. No Kasing in the voting. I think both of us would have gone there, you know, support main. You think he's an amazing player. All supports are the best. Be sure to visit @LollySports on Twitter and vote. If you were going to give it to one of those guys.
I mean, it's Expect. You have to give it to Expect. Yeah. He won them the game at the end of the day.
I personally think that Jeskla has a very good shout for it as well. No. His late game team fights were actually really good.
I think Jeskla did his job. Which I think is fine for an AD carry. Was it MVP worthy for me? No. I think Expect and Cajal definitely had a larger impact in the overall victory of this game.
I will give you that. Well, for more on XL's win, let's check in with Law and their jungler.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Cajal, for joining me after the game. Now, I will not repeat what you said about Max Law before the game, and you won't. But what did you think about your performance today against him?
I think we played pretty well. I think me and Expect were on the same page today, and we played really well together. I expected Max Law to be top more when we were fighting a lot, but he was never really there. So, yeah, I expected a lot of 2v2s, but it was a bit of a 2v1.
And it's a victory in the end. I mean, you almost took down G2. You just took down Misfits, two of the biggest teams in the LEC right now. Do you think people have been underestimating you guys so far?
Yeah, I think people underestimate us, and that's why we take control of the game most of the times against good teams. I think we had a really, really bad week of practice. Like, it's been really rough this week, but towards the end of the week, it became better, and we went in this game with nothing to lose, and it just shows how good we can be when we want to win.
How do you go from having a bad week in scrims from showing so much on stage?
Yeah, I have no idea.
What is your strength right now as a team, do you think?
I think as a team, we're really willing to give up resources for other players. Like, I think everyone on our team can carry. Like, Exile, Expect, Jeskla, they all can carry. And I think I'm quite flexible as well. Like, if my team needs me to play a tank, I can play a tank. If they need a carry in the jungle, I can play a carry.
And we'll see if you can bring some more flexibility tomorrow. You'll have another challenge facing Schalke and Wolfir. What is your mindset about this one?
Well, it's my old team, my old teammates, Upset and Mento. I think they're really good. Like, I think people are underestimating how good Schalke was at the start of the split. Like, they've come into this week, in this split, like, just performing really well. And I think their players are really good, so it'll be quite hard, I think.
And we'll see about this tomorrow. Thank you for joining me for now. And for more on this game,